He was definitely an individual character.
He was wild.
Yeah, he was. When I first met him, he was quite shy, I'd say, and quite reserved, looked quite normal, quite sensible. And then the more you got to know him, he just came more and more out of his shell and started wearing weirder and weirder clothes as the years went by.
Yeah.
He was definitely one of a kind.
For sure. And you always found out things about him that you didn't realise. Remember we found out he used to do gymnastics?
Yeah.
We found that out playing the cardboard box game when we were drinking. Yeah. You know, you have to lean down.
And then I used to win every time, and then Danny was there one night when we did it, and he beat me. And everyone was like, how on earth did you do that? And he was like, oh yeah, I used to do gymnastics.
He was like incredibly flexible. Which you wouldn't expect at all.
Yeah, and he was always just going on like the most exotic holidays, and he'd like really downplay them, be like, oh, you're coming out next weekend? Be like, no, I'm like in the Caribbean for 3 weeks. Be like,
all right then, have fun.
First year uni, went to Leeds Beckett, Marsden House. I think I met Danny a couple of weeks into first joining uni, along with Marcus, who's Marcus's flatmate.
I was flatmates with him, which was interesting. Saw some of his cooking. Wasn't the best.
Tuna and baked beans and pasta.
Yeah. And he thought he was doing something amazing, but it wasn't.
Probably the first story I remember of Danny was the start of second year. It was your birthday, Romarn, when we went to Bongo's Bingo. And like I said, like when we first met him, he was always quite like reserved, like always like chatty, but quite normal. And then when we went to Bongo's Bingo, it was like the first night I'd properly seen him come out of his shell, and it was like, it was one of the funniest nights we've ever had. Like, it was crazy.
Was that when he lost his bracelet and he had us all crawling under the table to find it?
We were like crawling around the benches at Bongo's Bingo trying to find it, and like we literally couldn't leave or participate in the
Bearing in mind the whole hall's filled with benches and people are on the table down.
We were crawling.
It's got Danny crawling up the tables and stuff.
Yeah, that's probably my earliest memory of him. And then I had a Snapchat memory yesterday of when the pubs first opened, and we had prees at ours, and everyone was so happy to be going back to the Headingley taps. And Danny turned up in those pink shoes,
Fluorescent
neon pink trainers, and everyone was like, "They're an interesting choice." And he just like couldn't understand why people were looking at them. I thought they were weird.
I think my highlight is when he let us shave his head at maybe 2 a.m. And it was the hardest I've ever laughed. Tommy was there, and I've never heard him laugh like that before. He couldn't breathe. It was so funny.
We all woke up to those videos because we went on the night out, so we just woke up like making my toast in the morning, went on Snapchat to see the process of Danny slowly shaving his head. And it was a process, it wasn't just like all off at once. It was like,
we do jokes and find it that funny. And we finished laughing like, yeah, let's do a bit, and then we shave another chunk off, and it was honestly, it was one of the funniest nights of my life.
I was at work and Bailey had put a message in the group chat, and my first instinct was, because I didn't read it properly, I just skimmed it, and I thought they were joking. And I feel like everyone was like, what are you talking about? And I thought they were just like taking the mick and trying to have us over. And then obviously they weren't.
I did the same, there were so many messages, so I read them all. And I think I just screamed. And then I can't really remember the next like 12 hours.
I was in Italy for my sister's wedding. It was the first night we were driving to the restaurant, and I got a Facebook message off Danny's sister saying, "Can you ring me please?" Which was a bit weird, but obviously it didn't even cross my mind that something like that happened. I just thought they needed to get in touch with him, and she just said Danny's dead, which I didn't really have a lot to say to, and I think she said something like, "We've not heard from Bailey," so I just said, well, I'll try and get in touch with him, and that was about it. We had to drive to the rest of the restaurant, which was only like 5 minutes, and then I got out of the car and called Tommy, basically. And then I was just sat outside the restaurant, I didn't eat, everyone else was inside, and I just sat there, basically processing things for a bit.
And I was with 3 of my friends in the morning, and it was like a sunny day. I remember it was a really sunny day, it was a nice day, we were in the garden, having like breakfast, a bit of a chill, and I just remember putting a picture of myself in the group chat, and getting a message from Maisie saying, I think you need to read the chat. It's pretty similar to like you guys. So I did go and read the chat, and it's similar to these guys as well. It was kind of just a Reddit, and kind of read it, didn't process it, didn't acknowledge it, because it kind of just was like, I don't know, like a prank or like some like silly, like, do you know what I mean, like waiting for the scrolling to find the haha, like only joking kind of punchline thing. And then yeah, kind of just read it, kind of just allowed it, and then I think Jasmine called me, and Jasmine was in hysterically crying, and I remember telling Jasmine that I don't believe it, don't be sad, don't be upset, it's, do you know what I mean, they're just messing with us, don't be upset, and she was just broken, and then I think from her speaking to Jasmine and hearing how broken she was, it kind of broke me in a sense, and it sunk in that it was actually, it wasn't a joke, and I kind of had to wrap my head around it, and yeah, I think the next day was like such a blur. It was it was my brother's birthday, and I was with my friends, and I couldn't get hold of anyone that was family because I didn't want to be with my friends, and yeah, I just remember my mum having to come and pick me up and taking me home, and then I think I just slept until the next day. I cried myself to sleep.
We went and spent all our time, well, when we weren't working, well, we didn't work for a bit, and then we'd go up and spend the weekends at the house in Leeds because the boys were still living there, and obviously Danny's room was still there, and we didn't want them to be alone there, they didn't want to be, so we'd all go up and spend the weekend, and it was the weirdest thing because we didn't know what to do, so we just did what we always had done.
It was like a mixture of like laughing, having fun, and then like you'd kind of forget, and then you'd just like, we'd all kind of look at each other then and then remember why we're all together, and then you'd like momentarily forget because it's sunk in, and then everyone would remember, and then everyone would cry.
Yeah.
And then you try and cheer someone else up and make them feel a bit better, and then someone else would cry, and then it was just the weirdest mixture of emotions.
Yeah, I think initially we all just wanted to kind of be together. I think the first instinct was to just everyone get up and get to the place which is Leeds, where we all met. And
it was horrific though. When I think at the time we were all, when you look back at it, we handled it so well. Considering everything, I think we did really well, because when I think back now, I can't even imagine, I don't know how we got through it. I don't know how, like when the girls would stay, and we'd stay in Leon's room upstairs, which was directly opposite Danny's room, and the door was locked. And we'd go to bed at night, and I can't fathom how we just, well, we didn't sleep, we just lie there like upset, but just sat in there knowing that his room was right there. Like, every time you'd walk past it, it was just, yeah.
You wanted to be around people that understood how
definitely.
you were feeling, because I think a lot of other people, like other friends and family, they like wanted to be
didn't
there
understand.
for us,
Yeah.
but they just didn't know how.
There's nothing
Yeah.
they could have said that would have ever made any
Yeah.
difference. We just needed to be together. Pots is a bar that we used to go to, and Danny loved doing karaoke there. And we walked in like, oh, this would be nice because we'll feel close to him, and immediately all of us just start crying. Everyone's like dancing, music blaring around us, and we were all just in bits.
Yeah, I think
that song came up.
what was it?
Video
Yeah.
of me and Danny, we did was walking to the shop once, and we had an earphone in each, and we were just putting on like throwback songs, and one of them was is it Flow Rider Wild One?
Yeah.
And this video was both screaming this song walking to the shop, and then that was one of the songs that came on.
As we were about to leave, we were literally
Yeah.
about to leave, and it came on.
And it just hit me, and I was like, I need to get out.
Yeah.
when people would come to Manchester, we'd all have a group night out. Every single time, it just didn't feel complete. It felt like someone was always missing. You were waiting for him to walk through the door, and I think that's made it worse because it like prolonged like the full year. Was just each time we'd all meet together and we'd be excited to see each other, it would just be like a grieving session.
And it's wild as well when you say that, when even still now to this day we'll be looking around the group, especially when we're all out or when we're all on holiday or anything, you're always head counting. As the girls, we're always head counting, like, have we got them all, and you still find yourself to this day being like, we're missing someone. And you know, like in the back, you know what it is, but your brain just doesn't click like that, because we had a certain number that we were used to, and then it just changed.
And the amount of times like me and Dooley would look at each other and just say, Danny would have loved it. And like I said, every time we're at a festival or that type of situation, you feel like he should be there, and he's not.
I feel like uni was like the happiest time of my life. And like looking back now, like for the first year when I left uni and like was working, I'd always listen to the songs that we used to listen to at pre's and afters and like events we'd go to, and I'd always just miss uni and like look back with like just like happiness, like always laughing about stuff. And ever since Danny's died, it just like overshadows any happy memory you have. And songs that used to make you so happy now just make me upset. I can't look at some Snapchat memories without crying, and there's certain nights that like we all had as a group that were like we would have said like the funniest night we've ever had, and then this just kind of like always overshadowed now that Danny's not here.
Feels like a completely different life.
Yeah.
Do you know, when we first left uni, it just felt like, oh, that chapter's over now and this is a new one, but then since he died, it just feels like everything just stopped. It's like pre-Danny and post-Danny. That's how it feels.
And I remember getting there and just seeing everyone stood outside a church. Like it was just the most bizarre feeling that like no like 22, 23-year-old should ever have to go through with the group of friends that you've just lived the best 3 years of your life with at uni. And I think that's when it hit me. I remember walking out and everyone touching the coffin. That was really hard as well. It's just the most bizarre thing that, no, like we shouldn't have been in that situation.
I've not been to many funerals, and I don't think I've ever been so sad to see a room full of 20-somethings having to sit, and the reason why they're all in the room at such a young age is because of the death of someone at such a young age. Like that's not something that seems very normal to me. You know, you should go to a funeral, someone's lived a very long, happy, healthy life, they're in the elderly age, you know, they go a very natural, peaceful way kind of thing. I sort of think to go to a funeral full of children, like, we were adults, but you know, we're still quite young. There was a lot of young people there. It just didn't sit well in my head to a sense of like, what the hell is going on?
Couldn't wrap my head around being there, because it wasn't just our group of friends that was there, it was the extended group that we had in Leeds as well. And I remember looking around and everyone was obviously just stood talking to each other before we went in. And I was looking around and thinking, God, the last time we were all together in a room was at a party, and now we're here. And it's unbelievable. You can't even, and you just never can. You can never wrap your head around how it can go from that to that so quickly. And obviously, you just would never, ever, ever think that that's going to happen. Especially, you hear about it and you just never think it'd be your friend.
Because it's just something that happens on the news. Like it happens, but it happens on the news. It doesn't happen to people, but it does happen to people. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
And they wanted us to wear like bright colours as well. And I remember like at one point being like to girls, like, what are you even going to wear? And it's like, how do you go from planning your outfit that you're going to wear to go to a party to be like, what we're going to wear to our best friend's funeral?
Yeah.
Like, I just,
Like one minute we was planning Danny's Otley Run. We all did Danny's Otley Run for his birthday, which is fancy dress in Leeds. So 1 minute it's like, what, we're planning an Otley Run and we're all dressing up as stuff that begins with it. Was it?
It was your birthday and DNR.
So we all had fancy dress costumes, and the next minute you've got to think
you're trying to wear a bright coloured outfit for Danny's
bright
funeral.
colours have we got to wear at Danny's funeral? Like,
there's parts of me that I hate now because of what happened. Like if someone doesn't answer the phone to me straight away, that's it, I'm in panic mode. There's no like, oh, let me just call again. It's no, that's it, I'm panicking now. I can't even control it. My brain just immediately goes to there's a problem. So that, and obviously that's so difficult for everyone around me as well, because it's not their fault that they're not on their phone, but you can't control the way that your brain changes. And especially with my little brother, oh my God, the thought, I hate him going out. I can't stand him going out. The thought of him going on holiday, it makes me feel sick. And that so obviously must be so frustrating for him, because he's just turned 18 and he's so excited about life, and I don't know, it changes you for life.
I think not even our lives, like I know my parents are definitely a lot more wary of me going out, of me getting drunk, especially on holiday, because they've seen how it's affected me, their parents themselves, and I think they can only imagine how it's affected Danny's family.
previously, if there was a night out and either I couldn't really be bothered, I'd kind of be like, oh yeah, I'll just make the next one. But it kind of like there's a few times when I've not been out when maybe Danny would have been out, and now I look back and I wish I'd bent over backwards to be on that night out to see him.
Definitely.
So I think there's just that in my head that, yeah, like Romarn said, appreciating people, just always making the effort to spend as much time with everyone, which is a horrible way to think, because you shouldn't have to think that when you go and see your mates it could be the last time. No fight is ever worth it. I mean, I wouldn't say it helped in Danny's situation because that was just a freak scenario with a psychopath on the loose. But I just think a lot of young people will get a bit drunk, get a bit leery. You never know what someone is carrying. No fight is ever worth it. Like, if you see an issue, it's just better to stay clear. I think a lot of, like, when people first turn 18, they start drinking and they want to be tough, go out. If someone starts on them, they don't want to look weak, so they don't just want to walk away. But it's not worth your life. It's not worth your friends going through what we've been through.
And anyone who's thinking of carrying one, or maybe even does now, I think people need to realise that you're not as smart as you think you are, and you're not smarter than the police. So regardless whether you think you've hidden it or, oh, no one's seen that, you will eventually get caught. And we've seen that in Danny's case. You're not, and especially this day and age, there is cameras everywhere. People have Ring doorbells. You're not as smart as you think you are, and you will get caught. And it's not just their life you're ruining, it's your own. Because you won't work, life, family, you'll never be the same person. No one will ever respect you again. It's just not worth it.
It's only ever going to end in death or prison. There's the only way it goes. One day or another, you yourself will end up in prison or you'll end up dead. There's the only two options that you have. And the other option is just don't do it.